Gangstabet is Icon's next generation NFT collectibles of 5,555 gangsters and detectives, with changeable names and stats. Holders of Gangstabet NFTs receive daily distributions of GBet tokens. GBet can be used to upgrade their NFT skills and stats. The supply of GBet will decrease over time and will stop after 9 years. Holding Gangstabet NFTs will have opportunities for future airdrops and will give you access to Gangstabet's highly anticipated metaverse. Learn more at gangstabet.io. Shout out to our sponsors at IconBet. Open source, decentralized gaming, no deposits, play straight from your wallet. IconBet, made by the players, for the players. Eye on Icon is proudly supported by Icon Nation and the Icon community. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Eye on Icon on the new year, and with us as always, Iconographer. How are you today, man? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. I'm doing pretty well. How about yourself?
Yeah, I'm good, man. Excited about this new year. It's gonna be the year of Icon, right? Isn't that, in some cultures how it's the year of the bull, the year of the this or that. Today is the year. It's gonna be the year of Icon. Come on, we got to be positive.
Well, I wouldn't, I'd argue that it wasn't that 2021 wasn't also. I mean, I think we had, you remember at the end of 2020, we were sitting there, I think it was like, we were still sitting in the 30-cent range or whatever,
Mm.
and watching, Bitcoin go up to 30K, I think it was, or something like that. Maybe I'm blending 2020 and 2021 a little bit. But I remember there was a lot of anxiety at that point. Obviously, that changed. We broke through $1, broke through $2, broke through $3 there briefly. So, I think relative to 18 and 19 and 20, 21 was a pretty good year. But yeah, certainly, there's a lot of rubber hitting the road in this year, both in terms of BTP being launched officially, hopefully in the near future here, and obviously with ice and snow as well. But a lot more tangible things that are happening this time around. I think 21, I think, was important because really a lot of dApps finally came out that we were anticipating. Balance and kind of paramount among that. We're about to get Optimus here in a few days, which we'll talk about. So a lot of what would have been kind of floating around there as promises and hopes and dreams and all that stuff finally started coming to fruition last year, and I think it's and also Gangstabet, NFTs, all that other good stuff. So there's a lot of stuff that was on the horizon that finally came into place, and hopefully sets a nice foundation for what's to come this year.
Yep, agree. And look, we're already kicking off the year with a bang with the new sponsorship. You've probably heard that at the start. We now have IconBet, Icon Nation, and Gangstabet, who is officially sponsoring the show as well. So this is a great new addition, and very grateful for the team to sponsor our show. And obviously, Iconographer, how bullish have we been on Gangstabet? I feel like this is a moot point and hasn't gone appreciated in the community. I'm putting my hand down here. I've been very vocal on this Gangstabet being, what was it, Iconographer? I kept saying NFTs done right.
Yeah, and I think, and we'll obviously talk about a little bit more about that lately,
Yeah.
just because it's been kind of I guess you'd say a bit of a big week as far as Gangstabet's concerned, and a lot of excitement there. But yeah, I agree. The kind of I guess you call it the evolving nature of that ecosystem and the tokenomics that are behind it, I think has made a much more a fairly captivating market and a captivating ecosystem. There's definitely a lot of passion in that community for everything there. So yeah, we'll definitely spend some time on that in a little bit here.
Cool. Well, look, let's jump into it. Let's dive into the markets. You had to tell me what was happening, Iconographer. I was so oblivious this morning. We're in a wave
Well,
of red.
I'm staring at the 4 hour on Bitcoin here. I'm just looking at two giant red candles here. Went from, let's see, 40, like mid 46, fell all the way down to mid 42. So a nice little 4K drop in a couple hours there, maybe more than a couple hours. So there've been a lot of from, I guess, from a zooming out standpoint, A lot of the narrative I'd seen is basically, we're going to be stuck between 42 and 53 until we can break either one of those. Obviously, we've hit that lower range that like a month ago or so during that, that Friday night, at least Friday night for my time, huge liquidation candle. And it looks like we kind of crept back to where that candle was, and we're touching on it again. Obviously, in the meantime, we did bump against 52, maybe a little higher than that. So we are definitely playing in that range, and I think for a lot of traders, they're just waiting to see until we either fall below 42 or break above 53. But until then, we're kind of stuck in this little purgatory area, at least as far as Bitcoin's concerned. ICX had a bit of an interesting week. Obviously, we had the snapshot the other day. So, we ran up to, I think it hit 197 or so. But that was like a few hours before the snapshot, if not a day before the
It
snapshot.
was
And
well
then,
before. Yeah.
yeah. And then from there, it just kind of fell and fell and fell. So it was kind of like everyone kind of front ran the sell a little bit, because they were, because some of the major exchanges, Binance being the main one, weren't allowing um, deposits, and they weren't allowing deposits like leading up to it, and also they weren't supporting, at least as far as we know, the snapshot and the airdrop. The only people really trying to trade the action were those who were doing it just to trade it and not to actually capture the snapshot, I would think. And so, they didn't have a problem. They didn't have a problem selling before the snapshot hit. Once it hit a local high, which it did around $2. So that was a little bit of an interesting dynamic. Obviously, there were people who were playing the actual snapshot. There's a huge amount of sales on balanced, which really gobbled up all the liquidity. It sent from like $1.50 down to like $1.10 or $1.20 or something like that, just because relatively low liquidity in those pools. There are some people who were able to scoop up some ICX pretty cheap, potentially captured some arbitrage in some of the exchanges that were allowing deposits, or just maybe just sat on it, waited until a balanced liquidity pool kind of came back into balance with the other exchanges. But yeah, some very interesting price action. From my standpoint, I was just holding it just because I wanted to get that snapshot. So it was more of an entertainment for me, but always interesting to watch how those things play out. I tracked again, just staring at the charts, tracked the snapshot for OMG a couple months ago, and their BOVA token, and that was another one where it was just interesting to watch how everyone kind of, at least how the charts tell the story on that one. So yeah, it was kind of a crazy week. We've obviously kind of bled out a little bit from the airdrop. Kind of we're sitting in the 120s area, and then with this most recent candle on Bitcoin, we're down to we're in the $1.10 range. So I think it could be relatively worse considering how much quickly Bitcoin fell. But we'll see how the next few hours and days play out.
Yeah. Look, on China's, you're right. 53. They're calling. They're bullish. But again, they've been expecting a bit of a drop. I've seen constant 42 has been consistent, and you can see a nice wick off 42. So let's see, though. I think with Bitcoin, one thing I learned, as soon as it starts to dive 1, 2, it may not be over. So probably there'll be a lot more blood on the streets. But yeah.
Well, there's a trader I follow who I think I've mentioned before, Justin Bennett, who not every trader gets everything right. Yeah, and he basically pointed out that like every time, Bitcoin will have some crazy, candle down. It'll wick way down, like kind of like it did a month ago. Wicked way down to 42, quickly bounced up, and then kind of ranged. But what he pointed out is like every time that's happened the last, I think it's like 5 or 6 times, it'll drop, it'll pop back up, and it'll range for a little bit, and then it'll slowly bleed out, and then it'll fill out that wick, right? So it'll actually like it'll gradually fill out where the wick was down with the new low, and rather than wick down there, it'll actually just kind of fall down there and hang out, but then it'll bounce back up again. I mean, this has happened over the last year or so. And he pointed this out like 3 days ago, and of course I was like, maybe it won't this time, but it looks like that's potentially exactly what's happening. So, it's assuming we can hold the support line here at 42. Theoretically, maybe it's we had to get the pain over with. Maybe there's a lot of people buying here just because they know it's at support, and hopefully maybe it's the trampoline bounce we need to start picking up momentum again, and maybe send us back above 52 or 53 and maybe keep things going, but we'll see.
Yeah, I agree. I think need it to happen. I don't know. I don't feel fear. Are you feeling fearful? I don't. I've been quite calm.
No, not really.
Yeah, yeah. I think I'm not getting May vibes. Like May was, yeah, that was just something else. Wines weren't calming me down, but yeah, this I wasn't even aware it was happening. So all good. I think that's a good overview of markets. Let's see. Everyone's been waiting for this to play out. It is playing out now. Let's hope this bounce. It does bounce and holds. Well, let's hope it holds 40k, and then we see a bit of relief. But yeah, I think let's jump into the news. New year, there's been a lot happening.
Yeah, we're tweaking our format a little bit here. So we did that episode last week where we just kind of more, we didn't really have a script. We just kind of talked about stuff that kind of came to our mind. It was like 90 minutes long. We probably could have gone twice as long as we wanted if we wanted to. And we had some good feedback on that. So rather than kind of running through the news bullet by bullet like we have in the past, we're going to try to be a bit more analytical and a bit more casual on it. So we'll try to make sure like topics are covered, but we're going to be less. Again, we're just trying this experimenting. We're going to be less. I guess say a little less thorough and like the actual details of certain things potentially, unless they're important, and more. It'll be more analytical and more conversational. So after this goes up, we'll ask people what they thought of it. If everyone hates it, we'll go back to the way things were. But based on how that last episode went, and based on kind of how feedback went, we're going to tweak things a little bit as an experiment. But again, if you hate it, please let us know, and we're happy to switch back to the old way.
Yeah, I agree. So in that to what you just said, what do you think? The update, big month, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, we got our development roadmap, and even though they come out these every month, and I should be expecting them every time I get it, it's like a nice surprise. Just because it usually doesn't come, exactly on the same day each time. But this one came at the last day of the year. So yeah, I mean, it was fairly active month. We did have mentions IISS 3.1 going into effect. We have bonding now. There's the slashing penalties, which basically if a PREP acts in certain ways, certain conditions, their bond is put at risk. So this gives them a bit more skin in the game. This is something, and we've discussed it in detail lately. I think what's most I think as soon as everyone opened this, it was like, everyone just starts scrolling and looking for BTP stuff, which we did get. So it was kind of nice because there was a bit more, I guess you say, I think everyone wants a date, right? Like, what's the launch date? What's the launch date? What's the launch date? And, I think people, not most people haven't been involved in the development process. And there's you can sit there and say, okay, I think we'll be done in a month. And then you get halfway through and, here's an example. Say you have an audit that's scheduled and okay, it's the audit scheduled on this date and it'll be done by this date. This is something that's not in your control. And then the company you hired to do the audit, they say, oh, hey, we're really backed up. Can we bump this back a week, right? So that's something totally out of your control, totally unexpected, but also, something that's part of the process. And it's not like you can go say, screw it, we're not going to do the audit because we got to adhere to this deadline. That's just one example. There's other things, they've alluded to, like, oh, we had this little problem trying to fix this. So that was unanticipated. I think everyone who doesn't do development, even if you want to try to envision yourself in it, it's still hard to do. There's just so many unexpected things that pop up, and it's easy to say like, well, they should just anticipate that, or they should just fix it quicker or whatever. But that's usually easier said than done, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Look, I think for a moment, to put perspective, we had three proposals get voted through in the network. Now, if you actually think about this and look at other chains and stuff, it's very rare that a blockchain will go through so many network proposals and get voted on and implemented in a month. Okay, so I think that itself is a huge call out. Like, each of these in the background, this is the first time in December I was a bit privy to some of the stuff that happens in the background when these proposals get put up. And it was everyone, like there was people wanted more information, P reps, they wanted to make sure things were clear. There was a lot of questions, a lot of back and forth. um, Obviously everyone's nervous when they're making changes, and they're big ones. Each of these were, implementing stuff for IISS 3.1, bonding, slashing, all these things, which are huge changes for icon. So yeah, it was interesting, and I think it was a huge feat that I just don't think has been realized in the broader ecosystem, because where it's just been viewed that we're running so behind. Obviously, like this was meant to be done a while back, but all that said and done, it was still a huge accomplishment to get three things without delays that were planned in the month of December once we had the migration and stuff done, and they all got sorted. So yeah, huge shout out there. I'm with the iconographer. I get the whole the BTP stuff. Yes, I want a launch date. It's becoming very obvious through these updates, though. The the testing back and forth is revealing a few things, and I think it comes back to that we're not. It's not Icon's ecosystem, right? So when they're finding stuff, they have to work with the Moon River team. They have to communicate. There's a lot of back and forth and time getting consumed in that, and hence giving a bit of a go live date and maybe challenging. Maybe that's what they're seeing is facing as a bit of a challenge. So fingers crossed, though. I feel overall the update had a bit more detail, and I'm hoping to see in future that they keep building on this and kind of give this is what's planned for the future, and this is what's remaining. This is what's remaining to accomplish before we can go live. So it's not a date, but at least we can see some clear milestones. And if then the following month things get missed, we can cross-relate it back to the communicated milestones. So let's hope it goes in that direction. But overall, I believe, yeah, I think December, holidays, all kinds of things happening to get the update we did, and just how much happened is a huge accomplishment.
Well, we also had one of those revision. It was revision 15, which basically officially kind of flipped the switch on having Java score support. So it swapped. Basically, we had Python score support in Icon 1.0. Now we have Java, and so that was one of those things that, from a development standpoint, obviously more on the technical side, but certainly opens some doors, and was kind of like another part of the reason why Icon 2.0, from a developer standpoint, was kind of why it was being looked forward to. So I mean, and so why that's important is the Java scores, the smart contracts. They don't have to have the audit process, and that's what there was a lot of stuff that in the past, if you submitted a smart contract to Icon, the foundation had to audit it. So this often, it's usually reasonably quick, but still put some a bit of delays behind certain projects and things like that. So this will make it so that the developers can kind of deploy just on their own. And I think that's probably the most notable, and I guess exciting development that the Java upgrade brings to it. So yeah, I think every month these kind of get a little more better and thorough and more interesting. I mean, part of that might just be coming from the fact that we're getting closer and closer to we got closer and closer to Icon 2.0. Now we're getting closer and closer to BTP. So there's more to substantively talk about and bring to us, but also just in terms of a lot of this is, it gets on the technical side. It is a development roadmap update, but nonetheless, it is nice to get a bit more, meat on the bone, and a bit more understanding of kind of where things are at and what direction they're moving in and all that other good stuff.
Yeah, I think have we spent any time with the bonded delegation iconographer? Because I think this was interesting, because what we've seen happen here is as soon as the bonding got implemented, I understand we've spoken about this before, and I understand for the new P reps, but I've still seen a lot of old P reps as well scrambling about the bond, which I find very interesting given that that's been known for a long time. But one thing that has happened, we've noticed Binance has gone from number one, they're just right down the bottom now, because they haven't put up their bond, so they're not earning rewards. And from a few conversations I've been reading, it looks like they're reevaluating if they want to run a node, given the risks associated with it, if they don't have enough uptime and things like that. And that was the whole point of the bond process. So it was to make sure this term was used, PREPs having skin in the game, and that's everyone, and to make them liable, right? So I feel like it's already had that impact we've wanted it to have. And one thing I didn't realize, and from talking to Scott, it was cleared up, was so the way it's a gamification of that 5%, right? So if all the PREPs put 2% of their bond, they would all earn the same amount. But at the second someone goes to 5%, if everyone doesn't match to their vote, so the way it works is if they have, say, 1 million votes, they need to have 5% bond to earn the maximum rewards. That is, if someone's put up 5% already, then all the other PREPs would have to put up 5% to earn the max. If they don't, the others that have their 5% will actually earn more. And so that's what you see if you go to, I think, Brian's.
It's kind of like grading on a curve.
Exactly. So I originally thought if they didn't put the 5% bond, the rewards would just disappear, so less inflation. But I was wrong there. That is not what happens. But that's where the gamification component comes in. So the second someone's posted their 5%, well then for everyone to earn their max rewards, they would need to put up to 5%. And this is where we've seen some PREPs come out to community members and stuff and asking, will they want to bond their ICX? So what's the difference there? It's no different. It's just like staking, but the difference is if you go down the bonding path, you're helping the PREP out. However, any ICX that is put up as a bond, if their node is not operational all the time or miss any of processing blocks, etc., once slashing is activated, because at the moment it is at 0, then they are at risk of losing their ICX. So but this is where, again, these PREPs like Protocol 7 and stuff, they acknowledge this as a risk, and they're putting steps in place so that they would cover. So usually PREPs should have, if they're asking you, they should have some steps in place to ensure that your ICX is not at risk. What do you earn? Well, you earn the same as staking. It's the same rewards. It's just basically you're helping the PREP earn their maximum rewards from the node to meet that bonding criteria. I hope that's helped, because I didn't realize.
I think, well, I want to point out one thing is, I remember when PREPs first came around, there was a burning penalty for people who were staking to PREPs and if the PREP, if their node went down or they acted maliciously or whatever, there was like a small, like, I don't know, was it like 5% or something like that? 5% of the PREP staked ICX would get burned. So this was it put the incentive on PREPs to like pick the right guys and to pick the right PREPs in order to avoid getting that ICX burned. What happened with this is that like everyone was on maximum alertness, and anytime, even if one of the PREPs went down for like half a second, everyone would freak out. In reality, it was very, very, like the PREP would have to be very, very negligent. Like they'd almost have to purposely turn their node off and just let it sit off for an actual burning to take place. And I don't know, I don't think it ever actually got implemented. Now that I think about it, it was a proposal. They said, okay, the mainnet went live, it went decentralized, and then they said, okay, we're going to implement this down the road. And even before they implemented, people were freaking out, kind of, left and right, saying, am I going to get slayed? And they didn't like the idea of getting burned. So eventually it was shelved, and it kind of came back in the form of this bonded thing. So I think a better system, because, I mean, first of all, I want to say, like, the risk of getting burned on the bond, I think, is pretty low. I think the way it's set up, a PREP really has to be dropping the ball in order to let it happen, or they have to be acting like totally maliciously. And so, if there's a brand new PREP that springs up and you immediately bomb with them without them having any prior history or anything like that, that's potentially a risk of, like, they end up being a malicious person or whatever, or PREP. But if it's a PREP that's been there for a while and they've been able to run the node just fine for a while, I think the risk is exceedingly low for getting slashed. Now, again, A, not financial advice. B, just because past behavior does not indicate future behavior. But nonetheless, I think it's something that it's certainly a risk, but I wouldn't place it very, out of all the risks you're taking by using blockchain, and especially if you're using some of these DeFi protocols, I would put it very low on the list. But that's my own perspective on that. So I wouldn't be too, if you want a bond, I wouldn't be too concerned about getting slashed if you're bonding with a peer that you trust.
I think that
Especially if there's some sort of insurance that they're willing to you know
cover.
fulfill any burnings or whatever
Yeah.
whatever it might be.
I think that's a good comparison. We all ape into DeFi as if everything's perfect, but this bonding, which is
Yeah.
just like staking, yeah, good one. Okay, dev update. I think that's good. When you were talking, Icongraph, I have on the screen, you can see this is a great example of how out of control certain things are for the teams building BTP, and you can see for Binance Smart Chain, everything's done. They've solved all the issues, things like that. We're still waiting on that hard fork, and we've seen that hard fork, and we've seen the Binance community working on it, but we're still waiting for that to happen. So, and this is where again I bring back when people go when BTP, it's not that the team has dropped the ball or no one's doing the work. Unfortunately, the nature of blockchain is such that it's not just a simple upgrade, pull request, everyone has to then vote on this hard fork, etc. We know how this stuff works. It doesn't happen in a day. So yeah, I know I keep bringing home this point, but I feel quite strongly about it personally. I also want it to launch. It is a flagship product. It upsets me that I don't have a date, but as well, I often try to reflect and go, well, okay, what is causing the issues? And you can just indirectly get that from these updates. They're trying to be as transparent as possible. Okay, enough on that.
Yeah,
Next
well,
up. Ooh,
I think the key delineation is like there's stuff that we have control over, or at least the foundation has control over, but then there's stuff that they don't have control over, and the stuff that, like as you said, we have to wait for Binance Smart Chain to do their fork. We can't sit there and like demand that they do that, right? The foundation can't order them around. It's something, again, it's out of our control. So whenever it's not in your hands and in your purview, it gets even harder to predict when it's going to happen and when it's going to happen successfully. So
yeah.
I think that's a important distinction to make too.
Yep, agree. Next up, oof, so this was a bit of a surprise. I don't know, Oceanographer, did you expect ICE network to drop a bit of news saying a testnet would launch this month?
No, I mean, here's the thing, Mike. I think the big question is, like, I think people see that and there might be some people whose brain goes, um, okay, oh, testnet this month and then mainnet next month, right? Like, I was trying to think of comparisons of when a testnet is launched and then when the mainnet launched, because like, usually the way it happens, or at least happened in the past, is a token would launch on Ethereum or something like that. Then this is how it would happen with Icon. It launches on Ethereum, and then while it's there, they build the mainnet, and then they launch the mainnet, and then they port the token over. So I don't know what the typical timeline is for something like that. I mean, I imagine for like Solana and Phantom and things like that. I can't remember what I didn't focus on, oh, they have a test net, now they have a main net, or if they didn't have, the test net was kind of but in the background, and they didn't really quote unquote launch until the test net had evolved into the main net, or what it is. So, you know, I don't know how surprised I am that we got a test net already. I think it's very conditional on how long we have to wait for the actual live chain. I do think a test net is usually pretty close in architecture
Hmm.
to the main chain. So I think the other question is how much, even if quote unquote the main chain was ready for tomorrow, do they want to wait and give some of these developers time to experiment on the testnet and build on the testnet, so that way when they actually do launch, it's not that they don't just launch a chain with nothing on it. They can launch and then have a
Yeah.
handful of applications ready to rock and roll.
Yeah, agree. Look, I think for me, I mean, we're talking, I don't know, I look at stuff like this. So if you look a month back, all this time, the ice handle, there's just been nothing coming out apart from, the airdrop. We haven't actually seen any more information, so it's good to see a bit of a change here. I know there's a competition running on the handle as well for memes, and I'm more interested in the thread one about ice and snow, which has been a shame not to see as much generated from that. But overall, yep, testnet's coming end of the month. By the end of the month, it says targeting. And you're right, post testnet, then they look at the next stages, which just to be clear, if the way things work is will be snow, ice would be the last, and yeah, so it's funny though. Anything you do, people just are critical, aren't they? Like even the first comment on here, airdrop will sure delay the delay as usual. It's like what's testnet's got
If
nothing to do about the airdrop, people.
I mean, if we had a green weekly candle right now, it would be, oh, this is great news, but we have a red one, so it's,
Okay,
oh,
okay.
more delay, more, that's just usually how it goes.
But look, I don't see this. I don't think there was ever any communication around when a testnet would launch. In fact, this is the first bit I've seen. So I don't see how anyone's even going down the delay path. In fact, if anything, thank you for telling us a bit of a timeline around it. Um, so
It's a little bit funny because, like, again, not to call Kusama a test net because it's more than that, but it kind of is. And so Snow being part of that, it's almost like a test net for a test net. So
yeah,
from that standpoint, Kusama has the same thing. They have I think it's called Rococo or something like that. They have a test net where it's literally an actual test net where the tokens don't have any value. But
hmm,
nonetheless, it's just a little bit funny to think of it that way.
yeah, yeah. Well, look, interesting times. I think it'll be next 3 months should be quite eventful on that front as well. You're right. If testnet's launching, um, it'll be hopefully we start to see like a few more tools and stuff put out with devs in mind so that they can jump on the testnet and start testing things as they see fit. But yeah, more on that well, as it comes. Next up, we have Optimus. I feel like personally, I can graph at this announcement that happened on 28th. Like I'd completely missed it. It was only
Well, yeah, the holidays have a tendency to do that sometimes.
yeah. So, um, it's coming. How are you feeling about this? What's the excitement?
Well, I was I as soon as I saw that, I started unstaking some ICX because something to point out is when if you go to the test page for Optimus, it says you basically deposit ICX, which makes sense because from a starting strategy, at least on the SICX ICX pool strategy, it makes sense to start with ICX because it has converted and everything like that. It might be a little different on the loan, but just based on how Optimus's architecture is set up, that's how it sets up. So there's a lot of people on staking, myself included, in order to be participating in that. I think someone flagged it saying a lot of people are on staking right now as if that was everyone was getting ready to sell. But I think it's mostly because the only way to use Optimus is to deposit ICX, not SICX. So there's a lot of that coming in. But yeah, I think as always, I think people are there for they want to capture some of those rewards. I do think this one's kind of got a nice utility to it though, because like as for example myself, I was kind of playing around with balance the other day, and I had some unstaked ICX, and I was kind of like, oh, I'll just run it through the SICX pool because why not? And so I picked up some balance, and I don't know why I never noticed this before. And Scott actually pointed this out recently, and I pointed out what I did, but I'd run it through the SICX ICX liquidity pool. I got some BALN as a result, and then I went to immediately go and unstake, and I noticed I was getting. It said I was projected to get more than I thought I would in terms of the ICX I was getting back, and I was kind of like, oh, is that like a bug or something like that? And then I got reminded that when you're in that pool, what you're doing is essentially selling your ICX for SICX for those who are trying to trade the SICX for the ICX. And because it has a 1% fee on that pool, you get 0.7%. So I basically, in the span of like a week, I've been able to capture 0.7% on my ICX, which is, if you do that every single, I don't know if it, for me, I think this week was a little bit fast because my ICX got converted pretty quick because I think a lot of people were unstaking. And so, but if you did that, if it was something you could pull off every week, and a lot of that time is just from the unstaking time. If that's something you could pull off every week, if you compound 0.7% times, every week for a year, it's like a 45% APY or something like that. And that's on top of, the APY you're getting from having staked ICX for at least a portion of that time, as well as the APY you're getting from the BALN. So if I can have a protocol automate for that for me, which is what this does, that's going to make my life easier. And obviously I earn the additional yield with the FIN token from Optimus. So that's a nice little utility there. Again, everyone's going to rush to it. I anticipate the cost for the FIN token will, it will start high and then kind of go down and down and down as, people tend to sell it. But again, that it went up with OMM, it went down with BALN. So who knows how this one's going to play out.
Yeah, look, I think it's interesting, a conversation we were having before. So, we have the stats page and it says the APYs, but that's strictly on distribution. It's not really incorporating the fees you're earning as part of that in the LP.
As far as we know,
yeah.
As far as we've been told, that's just, at least unless they made a change kind of without telling us.
Yeah.
It's just based on the BALN yield entirely. It doesn't, to our knowledge, incorporate the trading fees that you get from being in those pools.
Yeah. So I think what you say, Oakengraph, is great. Someone out there, I've seen a couple of teams creating these tracking sites and stuff. It would be great if they could create tracking around just the LP's APYs, nothing to do with the balance distribution. So strictly on the fees. To get a gauge, because that would be very attractive for the ICX/SICX pool, because all of a sudden, if you see it, like there's a site called Coin, I actually got it on here, Coin Hall, and if you look at this, it's all the Terra ecosystem, but what's really cool is you go to pairs and it will actually show you the APR across the 7 days or 24 hours per pair on the different AMMs. Like, the Luna UST, for example, is doing 21%. This is with no distribution, nothing else. You can literally get an idea based on fees, what kind of APR you're looking at. I feel Balance would have a huge, would benefit immensely from that, because currently, I don't believe the getting APYs just based off distribution of the governance token is doing justice to the platform. But something for, if anyone listening, to create a tool around. I know I've spoken to Scott about this before, and he agrees as well. And he actually said it would be great for someone to build a tool. So anyone listening, get building. But back to the Fin. Exciting times. Look, I will be critical on my thought process around this. Is it has taken a long time to launch. I'm a little bit shattered that, unless I've missed something, that they haven't implemented a couple of new strategies, given there's been a longer wait time. What if we're going down the same two strategies that was months ago? It's a bit of an opportunity miss in my eyes. But I haven't stayed as close to it as I want to, so I could be wrong, but I haven't seen anything else from the documentation or anything like that. Let's see, currently.
And I think from there, if I was them, I think from their standpoint, it's a matter of like getting an MVP out, so a minimally viable product, and because I would worry if you put too many strategies in there, especially ones that got more complex, that it would if there's an underlying problem, you know what I mean? I'd rather okay, does the thing work, and then kind of build out from there. And I don't know how, if it takes, 6 months to build out a strategy, then that's going to suck. But if it's something that can be built quicker.
So I can go for, you have to keep in mind, what they're doing, this is a yield aggregator. It's not new. Yeah, it's something Icon's been lacking. It has taken a long time to come to market, and it's coming to market with two strategies. The basic strategies are your LP compounding, running the LPs through Optimus for Ohm and Balance. That way, it's restaking the selling the LP back, and those are standard strategies across all the protocols. So that's where I'm being a bit critical because we should have a
It
few.
just gives you it just gives you the BALN, right? Like
Well,
it
it
just it doesn't
sells.
sell it for you.
Well, usually the yield aggregators do sell. So what happens
That's what I
is
mean. But
it's
in terms of Optimus, I think it just holds the like you can obviously sell it on your own, but I don't think it does that
no. So the two
automatically.
strategies it doesn't no, but the other
Right.
strategies are against the pools. So all the LP pools are instant strategies because at the moment, while they're continuous, you have to claim it and then decide what you do with it. But majority of the vaults will claim every block. Well, in Icon's case, we could say every 10 blocks, and sell half, add it back to the LP, so it's recompounding.
Right, right.
So those are some typical base strategies, and I know the team's been reluctant, so that'll be putting sell pressure. But sorry, we can't. That's the yield aggregation. That's what it is. So we can't go
Yeah.
thinking along those lines. But see, what happens is you create these tools, 100% APY APR that's on Ohm will straight away go to 230 or 300% APY, okay, under the vault. Now, what's going to happen there? Oh my God, there's a ton of yield opportunities in Icon. Let's get out there. What we saw happen with the original Ohm, the influx. So there's a lot of perks of these kind of things. So to me, it's been months. There could have been strategies. I know they're very
Do we know for
community.
sure there aren't? Do we know for sure there aren't?
Well, I'm on
It's just
the
the test net that has the two.
well, the docs haven't been updated either, so
Okay, got it.
it looks like it. But anyway, that aside, exciting. Calling out the airdrop, airdrip. So there's a few conversations happening around that. So what is it? If you participated in the testnet and deposit ICX in a strategy, use the same wallet in mainnet when it launches. And it said participated in the first mainnet version. So I'm guessing when we have the mainnet version, as soon as it launches, as long as you participate by with the same wallets, putting ICX in these strategies, you will qualify for the. And obviously, there's an airdrop and airdrip. So the airdrop will be for the people who tested, and the ongoing airdrip program. Now I know Shamu. He asked. He's got a proposal in there where he's requested that for the airdrip, SICX should qualify as well. And traditionally, SICX has been left off the table, but I see his point. His point is, well, other teams are able to implement it, so it's not actually a roadblock, which I agree with. Um, so yeah, let's see how that goes. If you didn't know what I'm talking about, head on over to the Ohm community forums, and I believe there's a conversation going on in there. I think traditionally the airdrip was to entice people to come and check out the platform, right? So it was small, but just enough to kind of make people want to go claim it, and hopefully then explore what the protocol is. I think they'll probably question how successful the airdrops have been. But that's the case with the airdrops as well. People just basically take it, sell it, and walk off. So across different protocols. So yeah. Anyway, let's see how that pans out. I don't know if you have any views there, Grapher.
Not particularly. So, well, speaking of Ohm, they did flip back the SICX, or I'm sorry, yeah, the ICX borrow market. So that had been turned off in light of the snapshot, just to avoid potential tomfoolery there. I know we discussed that a good amount, so hopefully you're caught up to date on that. But yeah, they did turn it back on. So that market, the ICX market as itself isn't super lucrative right now. There's just so much supply. There's $53 million worth of ICX deposited, so there's no shortage of ICX. So the APY on that thing is 0.04%. If you do, if you incorporate the Ohm, it's up to 0.92%. So actually, incorporating the Ohm, Ohm's had a nice little run lately. Not quite sure why that is. I think it might be partly because I think people are more so coming on to the voting power that comes with Ohm. If you have staked SICX, especially when it got the fact that Gangstabet's able to distribute some of their some of their rewards to those who delegate via Ohm. I think that probably helps a little bit. I don't know if there's other stuff going on that I might have missed, but it does seem like Ohm's in a bit of an uptrend. But so it does make it actually, if you click that little button on Ohm, saying, show me the rates. If you count the Ohm token distribution, it really does help beef up the APYs. Like, I think especially on the, if you want to borrow BUNUSD, right now it costs you 7.5% APY to do that. Whereas if you count it with Ohm, you actually get paid 14.74. So those markets are, again, obviously all the risks that come with it, especially with borrowing. But nonetheless, those are looking pretty interesting. It does seem like these stable coins have been moving around a good amount as of late. I think I saw I think it was either BNUSD or USDC up in like the 20% range. I think that was even without the Ohm thing. So there's a lot of floating around there. Obviously, they are variable markets, but nonetheless interesting to watch, and nice to know that you can once again borrow ICX if you want to do that for whatever reason. I mean, maybe even if you want to get super risky with things, you could borrow some ICX and then deposit that um, into Optimus, just as an example of a use case. But again, then you're kind of you're definitely cranking up the lever a little bit on the risk profile, both in terms of leverage and in terms of the number of DeFi protocols you're using. But
So
nonetheless, nice to see that get turned back on.
yeah, and I was actually just flicking through as you were giving examples. So yeah, off own rewards, you're paying to borrow 7% to borrow BNUSD, and you're paying 0.69% to borrow ICX. With own rewards, you get paid 12% to borrow ICX, and you get paid 14% to borrow BNUSD. Damn it, and I just went back into balance, and I'm scared to look today, honestly. I've been ignoring balance because I'm just like, oh my god, what's going on with rebalancing? I don't know why, after so much grumbling, why I've got dabbled back into it, but yeah, so it's a good call out, Arkengrapher. Lots. This is a case of you're being paid to borrow, basically. Yeah, good news.
Yeah. Well, another DeFi front, there was another proposal to raise the balanced LTV up to 30%. This was kind of in light of some of the, it got cited as a black swan event recently. I'll just read it. ICX had a double airdrop snapshot while balanced deposits were suspended. Balanced DEX became a large point of ICX selling post snapshot, causing a sharp spike in BNUSD price. This triggered reverse rebalancing to absorb the high demand for BNUSD, and many borrower positions became locked. BI15 should erase that pressure on borrowers, allowing some to receive access to their collateral. So basically made it so you don't have to have as much uh, collateral locked up in situations like that. So it was at 25%, now 30%. Currently 91% approve, 8.25% reject. So I would anticipate this goes through. Actually, it got approved already. So that one is in effect. So if you're borrowing, you'll probably notice a bit of a difference there. I don't have much to speak on beyond that. I think it was kind of self-explanatory, but not sure if you have anything else to add there, Fez.
No. I saw. I didn't realize that was the reason why. But yeah, okay, that's interesting. Good voter turnout as well. Overall, though, it's yeah. The more demand, I want to see more demand for BNUSD. Yeah, I just yeah. No, it's good. It's good to see. Um,
And just a quick thing to note: there's no more airdrip for BALN. So that was if you had been staking ICX, you got that weekly airdrip. So that's over now. So which I think it's fine. It seemed like it had been getting smaller and smaller, at least on my side. And so it's just so much more lucrative to utilize BA Balance itself. And I think at this point, if people were still just getting the airdrip but not using the platform, at a certain point um, the marketing value of the airdrip was so pretty much gone by this point. It's been 6 months, so if people aren't going to use it by now. They probably aren't going to, and at a certain point you got to stop giving out free tokens to people who aren't using your platform. So I understand why they did that. Obviously some people will probably be a little bit bummed out, but again, if you really want BALN, there's plenty of ways you can utilize that platform.
Yeah, I agree. Honestly, I stopped even claiming ages ago and just kept forgetting, and it just was hardly worth the effort, in all honesty. But that's
Yeah.
my view. Um, yeah. Okay. Next up, now we got a bit of a gangster bet segment, don't we?
Yeah. Well, so yeah, I'm trying to figure out where to start here. Well, I guess, I guess the main thing to point out here, I guess what's been kind of exciting, I guess both the price of GBet, the GBet token, uh, Gangstabet token, as well as the floor price on the actual NFTs themselves have both gone up pretty significantly as of late. I don't know what necessarily spawned that. It wasn't like there was like there's been gradual good news that's come out. I think kind of the light bulb's starting to go off for some folks as far as like what the potential long-term benefits are, and we'll go into that in a little bit as far as the ecosystem is concerned. But the last week or so, it's just been very bullish. I think probably around this time a week ago, the floor was probably I think it was probably like 500 or so. I tweeted about it maybe a little bit more than a week ago, and now it is actually. Let me. Do you have it up right now?
Yeah,
That
on
link.
Craft it's 1.47, 1,000.
Yeah. So they're two separate marketplaces. I mean, they tend to trade with each other pretty well. So on the Gangstabet marketplace, it's at 1.38 thousand. So that is literally the low. If you want to buy a Gangstabet, you know they minted for 80 ICX. They are now at 1.38. One basically almost 1400 ICX. So that is almost 20x since minting, and the floor was at like 1.5, 1.6, maybe 24 hours ago. So it's grown pretty quickly. I think there's a lot of kind of ways you can value the NFT itself. I mean, the part that makes it particularly unique is the fact that each NFT generates the Gangsta bet, and there's been a lot of math done that basically says like I think when it was at like I think when so you get 12 a day per NFT. I think when it was at 12, I'm sorry, it was when it was at 20 cents, it was like equivalent to the staking reward you would earn from 4,000 ICX over the course of a year, just based on the GBet value. Obviously, GBet went all the way up to like 40, 41. Now it's at probably around 30 or so. So you can kind of extrapolate that. You basically probably get the value of what like 6,000 ICX, what staking would be. So there is an argument to be made, like even just on that basis, the minimum value of one gangster bet should be 6,000 ICX. Now, the other part of that, there is, if the price of GBet crashes, then all of a sudden that
Hmm.
changes. So there's a lot of volatility here. But even, it doesn't matter what the rank is, doesn't matter what the skill set is. Every gangster bet gets 12
GBet.
GBet tokens per day.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like a very circular thing too, because if the price of GBet is good, the price of the NFTs goes up. But there's always demand for the NFTs because they want the GBet, and if a GBet pumps out, say it got to $1 and it's pumping out $12 a day, the
Hmm.
price for the NFT would go up because at the baseline that's you're getting that at the very least.
Yeah, I think it's really awesome how someone's kicked off this narrative, right? And actually, when you think, you've made mention of the OM token, the Gangstabet team started getting a bit vocal around, did you know, via the OM token, one gives you, I think they were comparing it was like having 3 ICX voting power. How cool is that? Because they incentivized, they created their node and said, if you vote, we will distribute the GG token, which is not the Gangstabet token, which is their governance token. So that kicked off things. Then obviously the liquidity pool on balance, GBet is very limited. So the team couldn't go, here's a million GBet in the pool because, well, they don't have a million GBet. You get, I think it was 300 or 1,000, or there's a initial when you purchased it, each GBet gave you a supply, and after that it's 12 a day. So they put a little bit in. And if you add to that liquidity pool, what do you get? You get the governance token distributed. So on top of the fees that you'd earn in that pool. So there's incentive there. Then because I've been hoarding my GBet. I have not looked at upgrading my gangsters. It's like, no, I understood that this token was extremely deflationary, was unique because I hadn't seen any upgrade NFT projects out there. So Iconographer, you've been there the whole time. In fact, if I recall, Iconographer, on the second last day, I started harassing you. Have you bought some? And you're like, no, not yet. Like, what are you doing? Do it, do it, do it. And you went and did
Yeah,
it.
well, I'm glad I did. Just because for a while there it was like the floor price. I think the floor price at one point was below 80,
Yeah.
so below mint, and then it was at 90 for a little bit, and then like over the last, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks, it just kind of started taking off. There's a bit there's a bit of game theory there because like the it's kind of like you almost want to upgrade when it's cheap, because if you try to upgrade, because the value of the upgrade is you get more of a GG airdrop when that time comes. And if you have a level 10, you basically get enough GG to buy, like, I think it was 3 city blocks once that comes along. So I think once they released that teaser on
Yeah.
the metaverse universe, it really kind of, a light bulb went off for a lot of people saying, oh, okay, now I get why,
Exactly.
once they said if you have a high level thing, then all of a sudden people said, oh shoot, I gotta go upgrade my guy or my gal, and
Mm.
then, or my dinosaur, and then said, and that's why I think that's when it really started moving, is people kind of, there was a clear utility in having a higher. I think until people got a sense of what the gameplay was, obviously on the natural, it's like, yeah, it's probably better to have a higher skill one than not,
Yeah.
but like there was no tangible way to understand that, what exactly that meant.
And
So now that there's a clear, like, point A to point B drawn out, and it's still all very vague too. Now we got this other, we got the pub thing.
yeah.
So they released saying, here's the pub, you can come hang out in it. If you're hanging out in it, you can get airdrop certain tokens. And also, if you're higher level, then you'll get in for free. And if you're lower level, you got to pay a price. So again, adds more value to having a higher level NFT than a lower level one. And again, just drives up more demand for GBet because of the fact that you can use it to level up.
And this is what's so cool about it. Like, and you know what? I will say, yes, there's sneak peeks and things like that, but frankly, I completely expect the team to deliver. I will keep calling this out. They turned this around in 6 months, and I will call out. Show me another project that has delivered via CPS in 6 months from scratch to this level, and built an excellent community out of it. Like, I couldn't quote one. There's been great proposals that come through CPS so far. Some of them are still in the making. Gangstabet is the one that has really delivered. So, and they haven't gone back for more funding through CPS. They've delivered. They've got their sales now. They're utilizing what they've generated to kick off what is bringing more attention to Icon overall. Like, I have seen posts now saying, this is the first NFT I have bought that has actually made me any kind of money. I cannot believe it happened on Icon. This was an actual tweet quote. And I saw that and I was like, brilliant, love it, because it's true. This is a huge success for Icon, and the team aren't just lying down going, yeah, we made it. They're innovating in great ways, and I particularly love this pub idea. What a great thing, right? Get your NFT in there, hang out, earn all these extra tokens, and at the same time, incentivize people not to hoard GBet, which indirectly is constantly putting buy pressure on GBet because it's limited quantity. I love it, man. I'm so over
which
the moon.
which in itself, and that thereby theoretically raises the value of the NFTs, because the only way you can get GBet is either by buying it or getting it for free via the daily distribution. So if
Yep.
GBet gets really expensive, then it's kind of like, all right, shoot, if I want it, then I gotta go buy an NFT. And if everyone's trying to buy NFTs, that's how you get the floor to go from 80 to 1,400. So,
Yeah.
and the other thing, that there was the highest, so on craft, and again, they're different, they're typically different markets, so it's a little bit nuanced, but according to craft's page, the highest price paid for one of the um, NFTs was 20,000 ICX. So in dollar, I don't know when that happened exactly, but at least it's at least more than $20,000, just based on how the price of ICX has been lately. So now, granted, it could have been a wash sale or something like that, but nonetheless, I have seen, just anecdotally, just kind of keep an eye on the activity. Some of them have gone for five figure ICX. I've seen that a couple times. So certainly, there's a lot of interest there. Certainly a lot of interest from some whales. There are some who, hold a good number of the Gangstabets. So, if those start getting unloaded, it looks like some of that started happening recently. So the floor was at like 1.6K, dropped down to like 1.2 for a little bit, but even the 1.2s got snatched up pretty quickly, just because people felt there was value there. So it does seem like NFTs have, in general, the NFT market has picked back up lately. So I don't know how much of it's tied to that general trend, how much of it's tied to just, it's the unique nature of Gangstabet and all the, the dedicated icon community behind it. But nonetheless, just because it's going up now doesn't mean it'll forever go up, but it does. It has been very encouraging to watch kind of the tokenomics and the design of the ecosystem kind of play itself out.
Look, agree. And I think what we're starting to see is a new wave of projects that are realizing that, okay, it may not all be tokens attached to NFTs, but I've seen a few on Icon as well, like the studio Tamashi. Their NFTs. They've got websites that give a lot of detailed story around each of them, and they're creating a Discord that will verify that you have the NFT to join the Discord. Utility. Now these NFTs are having utility. In fact, this morning I saw another one. I'm so sorry, I just can't remember the name, but they've done this pixelated action hero kind of things, and it's been gaining a bit of traction on Craft. I think the floor price has gone from 10 ICX to 150. And yeah, part of that is if you owned a collection, you got something else. So people are gamifying it or making it so that if you own it, there's more to it than just having it and hoping it appreciates. So, which is creating that next wave. But again, for me, Gangstabet is very different. I just love the fact that there's tokenomics involved in the entire process of the gamification, and really well implemented. What I know we can keep talking here. I want to quickly go. So make sure, I feel we haven't covered all the Gangstabet stuff, and it's not because they're sponsoring us, but there is, so we touched on this before. So there's a few ways you earn the GG token, which is the governance token. I believe one is if you have a certain level Gangstabet, but that comp has ended. The second one is providing liquidity to the GBet BNUSD pool. So they've increased it for the month of Jan from 300k to 700k. And if you didn't know, on the Gangstabet website, when you click on wallet, you'll be able to see the GG you've accumulated. It hasn't been distributed yet, but it is accumulating over there. So there's that. Icongraph, anything you want to add there?
No, I think we pretty much ran through everything.
Cool. The only other thing is I've noticed, and I was actually just thinking this, given the status of it, no one's done any reviews. I was like, oh, maybe I should do a video just around Gangstabet and how it all works. But as if I literally had this thought last night, couldn't sleep, and then as if I wake up and boom, they're running a competition, 1,000 GBet reward to make a YouTube video. Actually scroll through, they've changed a few things about the comp. It's dropped from 5 minutes to 1 minute. But again, great to see the team incentivizing the community to create content. And this one should be easy to do. It can be quite an entertaining, fun video of how everything works. So get in there and get involved. The more, one thing I keep coming back to, HX57, things like that, the foundation and various communities now are trying to reward people to take the effort to do things rather than hope they just come and make such good-natured people just do it for free. It's changing. They're actually communities, they're wanting to give rewards to get this content made. But I personally want to see more traction there. People jump in, take that chance. I see a lot of videos being put up here and there. So when you see things like this, everyone should be jumping on it and creating content around it, because you will get rewarded. They do distribute the prizes on time. So yeah, competition. Excited to see what comes off this. There's so much to talk about now in the Gangstabet world. And one thing I will say is, if you're creating content and you aren't in their Discord, get in their Discord and ask questions. They may tell you a bit more information on certain things so that you can include it in your videos. Yeah, that's all.
Yeah, the one thing that I'm like kind of trying to scratch my head with, and maybe it doesn't matter, is if you are, say you're only now just hearing about Gangstabet for whatever reason, you say, oh, cool, I want to get involved, but you're not a huge whale necessarily. You don't have like huge stack of ICX. It is a little tricky because yeah, that floor is it's so high where even at like say you had I don't know 20K ICX, which is a pretty good amount, I think relative to what a lot of people have, and to sit there and say, okay, should I be spending uh, what is that, like 8%, 10% of my ICX on an NFT, which could like plummet in value tomorrow. I think that's tough for a lot of people, and that's like the cheap, that's the entry level one. So that's kind of one thing that's a bit of a bummer is like, yeah, it's great that once you're in the ecosystem, I watch the prices go up. But at the same time, you do want ways for, ideally you want the community to grow and things like that. And of course, they can buy GBet and speculate on that to a certain extent. I don't know if there's going to be, I don't know if there's like a bunch of them in reserve that the teams set aside for promotional. I don't think that's the case. I think they all got minted as part of the open mint or whatever it was. So now I guess, if the prices do go down because of ebbs and flows, it will give, new entrants a chance to get in there. But right now, I think the thing you worry about is that the the reason the price goes up is because it's just everyone in the ecosystem is just gradually kind of feeding on itself, and there's no new money coming in or no new participation or whatever it might be. So obviously, that hasn't seemed to stop other successful NFT projects like the ones on Ethereum. I think the floor price for like the board apes and obviously the punks are hundreds of thousands of dollars. So that hasn't stopped them. The high prices hasn't stopped them from flourishing. So
Hmm.
maybe I'm looking at it the wrong way, but that's just one thing I was kind of throwing out there. And it's kind of like, what is the best way to potentially get new entrants involved who, might not have, again, like $1,400 to just throw at a picture on a screen.
Yeah. Look, hopefully, though, it also comes down to when it gets a certain thing, people start noticing and come across. So if you think of Bored Ape, CryptoPunks and stuff like that, like some of them say it reaches this status and you have some of them dabbling across, well, then all of a sudden it brings that next level of money into the ecosystem, I guess. That's another way of looking at it as well. Um, to your point, Icongraph, I think so. They didn't GBet whatever the team's gotten, and if they bought or kept some of the gangsters, that's the GBet supply they would have. So they're literally taking it um, from their supply to reward people and do things like that. Even with the ICE airdrop, for example. So when they kicked off the node, they would have their own ICX that they've taken from probably the sales and things like that and put it into the node. And they've turned around and gone, well, anything we get here, we're going to distribute it to our stakers, etc. So, yeah, quite giving in that way, which is cool. Okay, I think keeping an eye on time, Mark and Grapho, the couple of things to quickly. One thing on balance that I wanted to call out was InsureAce IO and balance. So now, as if you can actually insure, your funds while using balance for any smart contract vulnerability strictly around that. So if something happens around the smart contract and you lose funds, if you've taken out this insurance with InsureAce, you can put through a claim and get covered, which is cool. It's great to see. InsureAce is actually quite big cross chain protocol with all the major dApps now. They're offering insurance on it, so it's great to see balanced on there as well.
Yeah, I've been gradually, kind of casually following them for, I don't know, probably like a year now. So it's always, occasionally see a tweet from them or whatever, and then all of a sudden it was, here they are in balance. So it kind of a little bit of worlds colliding there. So
Yeah.
I think they're probably the top, or at least the most notable of that kind of product around. So nice to be able to partner with them and provide some additional security and confidence for those who are using balanced.
Yep, agree. Uh, what else? Look, the only other thing quickly to make sure, while we're on Gangstabet as well, Wonderland, we've seen that CPS proposal now. I completely missed. There's a whole ton of stuff happening there, including whitelist that apparently closed I literally got in an hour afterwards. I think iconographer, you were in the same boat.
Yeah.
However,
Well, I guess, yeah. I would just like. I think that there was an announcement that went out. There's a few bullets here for different kind of benefits. I think the quick way to hit it is before anything, if you're if you feel like you quote unquote missed Gangstabet, if you feel that you want to get involved in Wonderland, I would just say hop in the Discord and pay attention because they are doing some stuff for the folks who are in Discord. And kind of the early people involved, there's opportunities there. So if you're looking to get involved in that and aren't yet, I would just hop in there and pay attention. But anyway, I think I cut you off, so I apologize for that. So I'll let you
no, no.
resume what you were saying.
No, that's just it. I think, again, we've seen a credible team build. I'm quite excited about Wonderland as well. And already, I just joined their Discord last night after I realized about this whitelist. I didn't even know it was happening, and it's a huge, thriving community in there already. So, definitely one to keep your eye on, get involved in. Definitely follow if you aren't following their handle. But it seems like Discord's now the place to go to. I may have to ask Donnie to start hanging out in all the different Discords to start grabbing some alpha for Iron Icon, because Twitter, I feel, is getting less and less alpha-like, and more and more.
It's tricky because like I think because I had missed the pre-sale, or no, sorry, the whitelist for the pre-sale or something like that, or I don't know. I still don't have my head wrapped around it, but the announcement had come through, and I'm sure I got a notification for it. But I'm in so many rooms, and there's so many notifications that go off, and of course, there's all sorts of scams that I get a new DM every day from some random scam or whatever. So I mean, it's almost kind of overwhelming too, and it's supposed to be more organized and less chaotic than I think the Telegram is, but if you're in a bunch of them, it gets tricky. And even if you try, I assume I just have to find a better way of cleaning things up and making sure I get the messages that I need to get and everything like that. Because even just trying to hang out in just like the icon Discord,
Yeah.
there's so many channels in there. It's like hopping back into it, and then it's like, okay, now I'll hop into the Gangstabet one. And so there's a lot of cool discussion and more high quality discussion, especially relative to Telegram and other cool stuff going on. But it is like a lot. You really have to dive in deep and pay close attention to really feel like you're getting the maximum value from it. So that's the only downside. I think it's just a matter of figuring out how to best use it.
Yeah. Yep, agree. Okay, I think that's all the news we had. I can't think of anything else. Don't have anything on our list. Iconographer.
No, I think we got most of it. I don't know if people know the huge difference, I guess, in the format. I think we tried to be a bit more freewheeling. It did feel, we still kind of went through some structure. So I guess it'll be kind of an evolving thing. I do think, I wasn't as concerned on, I felt more, I was just trying to feel more comfortable kind of freewheeling and talking more in depth about certain topics if the conversation took that way, rather than feeling structured about moving on to the next topic or things like that. So anyway, we'll keep tweaking on it. Let us know if you, felt this was a move in the right direction, or if you prefer us to be a bit more, I guess you could say on script, as far as really hammering the news and things like that.
Yeah, agree. I'm a bit upset I didn't say this at the start. So, we've got a new channel, especially for YouTube. All the other mediums are fine. They're the standard because it had its own dedicated Iron Icon, through iTunes and Spotify and all that. Only YouTube was housed with my crypto setups tutorial channel. So we want to separate that, so then it can be more icon focused and BTP or whatever needs to happen through that particular channel under the Iron Icon brand, which it means that everyone has to resubscribe to a new channel and stay subscribed to Crypto Setups, obviously. So please, if you haven't, when I share this,
you have to go through the struggle of clicking like 3 buttons.
I know.
Hopefully they can endure.
Unless we get someone to build a bot. No.
Right. That hacks into everyone's.
For one ICX each. No. Yeah, look, please, everyone, make sure you subscribe. If you're watching it, just quickly like and subscribe. I would love to get the channel up to a ton of subscribers to show, because obviously if we get a lot of subscribes initially, the algorithms will kick in and show the channel to other crypto enthusiasts, and hopefully they just join the ride and we get a few more people come into the ecosystem. So really need the community to band together here and help us out, and thank you for those 3 extra clicks and obviously listening to the show, but taking the time to like, subscribe and share. I think that's it. Thanks again. Not financial advice. You know the drill. Everything we say is our thoughts. Yes, Gangstabet worked out, but we probably have some other instances that we've talked about that haven't worked out. So please make sure you're doing your own research. We are literally doing talking what we see happening around the ecosystem and the markets in general, but we definitely don't know for sure anything that is to transpire. So make sure you do your own research before you invest. And until next time, take care, everyone.
See ya.